Bjorn Fortuin just put on one of the most clutch performances in the 4-day series match for the Lions when they took on Western Province at the Wanderers. He scored 123 runs in the first innings and he backed that with 65 in the second innings, whilst with the ball taking 3 wickets in the first and following that with a game-changing 6 in the second innings. The numbers are simply outrageous, but the value of this performance is more than what the already crazy numbers suggest. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mbendulo Makubane and welcome to Sports Redefined. And on today's video, we'll be looking at Bjorn Fortuin's man of the match performance and redefining what makes it so special. Captain of the Lions, Dominic Hendricks won the toss on an early Sunday morning on the 26th of February and elected to bat first. On a surface that had patches of grass on it, the Western Province opening duo of Dane Patterson and Bjorn Hendricks got to work. After some pressure being applied on both ends, it was Hendricks who got Richards out first on 1 from 19 balls, showing the difficulties that the batters had to endure. Reza Hendricks was next for no run scored, and Kagiso Rapulana chased one down the leg to neck off on 5, leaving the home side on 22 for 3 inside 10 overs. With Bjorn Hendricks taking all 3 wickets while Patterson bowling 4 maiden overs, the darkness was not dark enough just yet for the home team. Dominic Hendricks and Mitchell van Buren put on an 83-run partnership for the 4th wicket, restoring some hope for the Lions, but that was short-lived as the captain Hendricks fetched one wide from Mpongwana and he lost his wicket after an edge for 44, leaving the team on 105 for 4. Mpongwana struck again in his following over, taking Connor Esterhazen, who was playing his very first-class match for no run scored, and at 109 for 5, in comes the starring Bjorn Fortuin at number 7. But wait, the darkness was not dark enough just yet for the Lions, as the 6th wicket partnership between him and Van Buren, it was Mpongwana who continued the herd, getting Van Buren at 118 for 6. And Sisanda Magala's stay at the crease was just 2 overs and some change long, as after yet another maiden over, Patterson finally trapped him LBW on 5 from 11, and after 43 overs, the Lions were on 123 for 7, reeling in the wounds that Western Province were gashing. Fortuin at number 7 was the last remaining player who was more than capable with the bat, as Malusi Siboto, Cody Yusuf and Luto Sipamla were left and With Siboto partnering him for the 8th wicket partnership, the pair started the repair job for the Lions, bat as long as possible in the last session and onwards, and in the 58th over, they showed just that by bringing up their 50-run partnership in nearly 15 overs of batting. Siboto was then dropped when he was on 14 runs off Kyle Simmons, and on the 60th over, whilst on 38, Fortuin was also dropped by Dane Patterson. He followed that up with a boundary, of course, attacking the unplayable Patterson, and the story as old as time. After a drop, here comes a boundary. And then he brought up his 50 off just 78 balls. Lions got to 200 in the 64th over, and in the 68th over, Siboto and Fortuin amassed their 100-run partnership. Fortuin lost yet another partner after Malusi Siboto mistimed one from the part-timer Aviwe Mgijima and lost his wicket on 52 runs, breaking the 144-run stand. The spin of Simmons was crunched, and 45 overs after his arrival, he brought up his magnificent century. He had helped the Lions from a crumbling 123 for 7 to a respectable 281 for 8 at this point. Cody Yusuf was quickly undone by Bjorn Hendricks at 293 for 9, and Fortuin and Sipamla put on a last push, but the latter was dismissed on 17 for 23, leaving Fortuin standing by himself on 123 runs, saving the Lions' innings to 323 all out. He scored 38% of all of the team's runs at number 7 and only with the tail to bat with. In reply, the Lions got into a quick start, getting rid of Eddie Moore, Daniel Smith, and then Jonathan Bird. However, that brought Carl Verani and Zubair Hamza together, and they went flying, putting together a quick 134-run partnership for the fourth wicket. Siphamla came through to break it finally, taking Verani at 68 with a peach of a delivery. Hamza trialled on though, notching up runs and eventually getting to 100 with this massive blow. He looked in super touch on 129 off 176 balls, and it needed something special to capture his wicket. And then in comes this guy, and he does this. Removing the ever-set Hamza, again pitching up and being the breaker of the game. And after that wicket, the tail showed a bit of resistance, but eventually Fortuin was able to clean them up and close the curtains on the innings on 423, Western Province leading by 100 runs. We are still in the morning session of day 3, and this time the home team got off to a much better start as they got to lunch unscathed on 61 for no loss. Mbongwana, who was deadly in the second session of day 1, proved to be effective again in the second session of day 3, capturing the wickets of Joshua Richards on 36, breaking the 83-run opening stand. But then, just before tea, Captain Dom got run out on 80 runs, and 5 overs into the last session, Rapulana went against Simmons and then left the very next one through poor judgment. Bam! Out for 27. In came Connor Esterhazen for a second crack in his very first-class match. Batting with Mitchell van Buren, it was Patterson who got one to keep low on the 64th over, trapping Van Buren LBW for 8 runs. Straight after drinks, Bjorn picked up where he left off. He hadn't lost his wickets in the first innings, remember, so he literally had unfinished business with the Western Province bowlers. And with the second new ball and the end of the day coming, Fortuin and Esterhazen had to see off the very awkward phase before the 80th over, which saw the 144-run stand between Fortuin and Malusi Siboto fall in the first innings, and they had to battle against the diminishing sunlight. Starting the last day with a lead of 129 runs and 5 wickets in the bag, it was a solid equation for the Lions. And with Esterhazen and Fortuin's partnership growing beyond 50 runs, it eventually got the lead up to 158 with 5 wickets in the bag. But then, on 40 runs, Esterhazen was undone by a fired-up Tsepo Mureki. It was then Magala who was there to see Bjorn Fortuin through to his back-to-back 50s, and having scored 54 runs himself in the Lions game versus the Titans earlier on this season, Magala showed glimpses of that form. But soon after, it was Moreki again who tore through Magala's defense, dismissing the big man for 35 runs from 43 balls. Fortuin so far had been the quiet player and silently anchored 2 50-run partnerships in the middle order to get the score to 312 for 7, and this was after Magala's fall with the lead on 212 runs. And the very next over, it was Carl Simmons who cashed in on Fortuin's defense and crashed into his stumps for a concrete 65 from 112 balls, and this was with the lead on 214. The last 2 wickets fell for just 1 run combined as the Lions collapsed 20 minutes before lunch, losing the last 4 wickets of Magala, Fortuin, Yusuf and Siboto for only 3 runs to clean the tail up. With 2 sessions of cricket left, Western Province had a very achievable target of 216 runs, and guess who opened the bowling for the Lions? Yep, it was Fortuin who assumed his white ball duties of opening the bowling, and with Bird and Moore surviving until lunch at 8 for no loss, it was 208 to win after lunch. The session after lunch, however, saw Makala bowl his third maiden over in a row, and Fortuin followed it up by disturbing Bird's furniture on 6 from 18 balls. The Jersey boys could not have asked for a better start in the session. Daniel Smith and Eddie Moore for the third wicket partnership started to deflate the Lions. From 8 for 1 in 7 overs, the Western Province batters scored in each of the following 23 overs, notching up their 100-run partnership in just 142 balls. These two were scoring at 4.2 runs an over, and at their current rate, the score that was needed would be covered in merely 26 overs with an entire session to bat and 9 wickets in hand. And in those 9 wickets, they have the 2 batters who are currently faced up and well set. They have Hamza, the centurion of the first innings, Varane on 2 consecutive scores of 60s, and with a huge point to prove to Proteas' new managers who dropped him after he was one of the top performers with the bat in the shocking display in Australia for the South Africans. Bongwana, who was having a magnificent game, is also there, and the blossoming Kyle Simmons, who scored 40 in the first innings, not forgetting that the tail that scored 64 runs in the last 2 partnerships in the first innings too. Western Province were definitely on the driver's seat. So what do you do here? You give Bjorn Fortuin the ball, of course. However, Eddie Moore was on fire and he pumped him for 4 runs. It's 102 to win with 9 wickets remaining. But on the very next ball, it was Fortuin who bowled a well-set Moore for 59 runs of 96 balls, and he was looking imperious Moore, scoring 8 fours and 1 6. Zubair Hamza, the centurion, walked in. Cody Yusuf, though, worked him over for 5 runs of 6 balls. Daniel Smith sees the trouble and he goes on the charge. Taking on Fortuin in the 35th over, he smashed 6, 4, 4, munching 14 runs from our starring. Kyle Varane took to Yusuf in the very next over, going for 7 runs. All of a sudden, 21 runs were scored in those 2 overs before tea. Remember when Daniel Smith took 14 runs from Bjorn Fortuin's over? Well, he tried it again, but this time, this happened. Sipamla catching the skyscraper, 65 runs to win with 6 wickets in hand. Varane is in the crease now with Mgijima, and with a wicket on the last ball of his previous over, he gets the crucial wicket of Varane, does Bjorn Fortuin, on the very first ball of his next over. All of a sudden, this man is on a hat-trick. Mbongwana, though, survived the rest of the over and with no runs scored. Captain Hendricks then brings in Magada. He whipped out a tough question paper from Kijima in the 42nd over, and the batter could not answer the assignment, with Makala nabbing Kijima's edge with an excellent display of bowling. So we are 6 overs into the last session, therefore time was not a factor with 53 runs needed. Western Province needed the runs, Lions needed those wickets. Danger man Carl Simmons can really take the game on, and he takes Fortuin for a blinding 4. Makala goes for 5 runs in his over. Now it's getting tense with the required at 43 runs. Now Makala comes in to bowl to Mbongwana in the 46th over. He's whacked for 4. It's 39 runs to win with 4 wickets remaining. But 2 balls later, Makala plays a strong hand. Too much for Mbongwana, and he's gone. 3 wickets remain. And remember, this is still about Bjorn Fortuin, right? He bowls to Simmons, who was Western Province's biggest chance of getting those 39 runs that they needed. 3 dot balls in, and Simmons couldn't hold it in any longer. Going for a big heave in the game's most key moment, Fortuin was able to capture Simmons and securing his 5-4, removing him for 5 runs. Western Province scored 64 runs for their last 2 wickets in the first innings, so this battle was definitely not over. Makala came back and gave away 9 runs in his over. Now it's 30 runs to win but he had 2 balls remaining in that over. And then he did this. Moreki trapped LBW for 4, and now it's 186 for 9. 30 runs to win with 1 wicket remaining. In comes Patterson, who scored 22 in the first innings, and Western Province were praying for all of those runs again. Bjorn Hendricks and Dane Patterson to get 30 runs. Bjorn Fortuin, who got both batters out first time around, had the nut. 30 runs to win, when Fortuin was smashed over the top, but straight to the fielder's hands, and Hendricks was the last to lose his wicket, and with 186 runs on the board, Bjorn Fortuin closed the innings and the match, securing his 6th wicket for the innings. The Lions, from needing to defend 68 in the last session by taking 7 wickets, did just that. But Bjorn Fortuin, why was his performance so special? Well, he came in the first innings, and with the score at 123 for 7 after losing 2 since he came in, he was there for more than 200 runs, and over the next 43 overs, he did this batting with the tail end of the lineup, facing over 50% of the deliveries since then, and on his way to an unbeaten century. And then, in the last session, he came in the most clutch, with an impressive spell of 7 overs, 4 maidens, 3 of those 4 maidens being with wickets. He went for just 9 runs whilst taking 4 wickets at the same time to dash the hopes and dreams for Western Province, which is why this man of the match performance by Bjorn Fortuin is one for the books. Thank you for taking your time to watch this video, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. So please like and subscribe, because more content like this for you is coming. And may you have yourself an awesome rest of the week. Blessings to all of you.